Well, Eric, it's great to see you. Down at the bottom of your screen here on my screen, it says Mel instead of Eric. I assume you're using your wife's computer.
Yeah, my wife Melissa Drees, otherwise known as my IT department and my travel agent. She helped me get all this set up this morning.
You bet, you bet. Well, I'm
Yeah.
thankful for that because I'm really looking forward to talking to you.
Well, thank
I
you.
want to, before we get into this, I want you to introduce yourself. I think you can tell about yourself better than I can. Tell us where you live, what you do, and what a day in the life of Eric Drees looks like.
Well, my name's Eric Drees. I reside in Caldwell, Idaho, which is where I'm coming to you from this morning. Caldwell, Idaho is southwest Idaho, about halfway between Boise, Idaho, and the Idaho-Oregon border. And I'm a livestock auctioneer. Been in the auction business for about 30 years, and I've done other things within the cattle industry as well. I've traveled for a breed association. I've traveled for a livestock publication. I've worked in cattle procurement for a major beef packer as well as a major feeder out west. But I've always had a hand in the auction business. And the opportunity back in about 2015, the opportunity arose for me to get back into the livestock auction business full time. So I took advantage of that. Been here ever since. This time of year, I sell one market a week, which is Moses Lake, Washington. Of course, here in the Northwest, this is our slower time of the year. And in the fall, when things start to pick up, I'll pick up about 3 to 4 more auctions a week, which include Central Oregon Livestock Auction at Madras, Oregon with Trent Stewart. And then I'll kind of alternate between that and Loma Livestock LLC in Loma, Colorado. And I will continue on with Central Washington Livestock as well at Moses Lake. And then I will pick up Montana Livestock Auction at Ramsey, Montana on Fridays this fall. So I stay plenty busy in the fall. I also represent cattle on Superior Livestock Auctions, so we'll be fairly busy shipping cattle this fall. And then in the spring, I sell some purebred cattle sales as well. So stay plenty busy doing that.
Very good. So I'm ignorant to that part of the world, so forgive me about this. But with all of those different markets that you're working at, I imagine that you are on the road constantly. So
Yeah,
how far is that from where you live, and what does your traveling schedule look like?
Oh, I'll run or I'll go 1,500 to 2,000 miles a week sometimes in the fall of the year. I flew when I was selling Loma, Colorado on a regular basis, I would fly out there, which I still do, but the airline schedules have changed to where it's just not as conducive for me to get there as it used to be, but which I really miss. I love that market, and I love working for those people back there, and enjoy going to a different part of the country. But I do get a lot of windshield time. Uh, I'm just off the top of my head, probably 60 to 70,000 miles a year. Plus, I'll fly. I don't fly as much as a lot of the other guys do, but I'm sure on 20 planes a year, roughly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and I visit with people from your part of the country, like you or Jacob Massey, and they'll talk about working 4 or 5 auctions a week and they're home every night. Well, on a busy week, I'll go to 3, and I'm gone 3 or 4 nights a week. So yeah, it's
Right.
just
Yeah.
it's a different dynamic in it, and there's just I think we're uh, probably, what are we? I think there's about 7 livestock auctions in the state of Idaho and about that many in Washington and Oregon. And so back in your part of the country, you have more auctions within a 100-mile radius
Sure.
than we do in our tri-state region up here. In fact, it's kind of funny. You get down into Nevada, which I do a little business in the state of Nevada from time to time. There's 2 livestock auctions in the entire state of Nevada, and they're both in the same town. So
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah. So this is a little off topic, but in those regions, do you find, since you're a rep for Superior, do you find that the video sale avenue is better for those producers in that part of the world than trying to drive them to a brick and mortar sale barn.
You know, the video sales out here in the internet auctions are very prominent, and I do find it to be better in a lot of cases. Reason being, there are some huge ranches out out in this part of the country. Some cow outfits that run several thousand head of cattle. So a lot of those cattle before the advent of technology and video auctions were being traded privately. And so, with the video auctions coming into prominence, it's allowed those ranchers to take advantage of competitive bidding and still have all the advantages of being able to ship directly because none of those cattle, or very few of those cattle from those huge outfits, were coming into the brick and mortar auctions anyway. So, uh, video auctions have definitely had their place out here. And I would argue that they've actually helped the brick and mortar auctions because they've helped popularize the auction method of selling.
That's a really interesting take on it.
Yeah,
I think I would agree with you. Never thought about it that way, but
yeah,
that seems pretty reasonable. Okay,
yeah.
let's
That's
backtrack
the
a
way
little.
I've always looked at it. So, oh, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Well, let's backtrack a little bit.
You
Let's
bet.
go back to your sort of origin story. So you've been in the livestock industry, I suppose, your whole life.
Yes, I.
Been in the livestock marketing industry a great deal of your career, if not all of your career. I'm thinking particularly about the auction industry. Is there
Mhm.
anything else that you have done with live bid calling other than livestock? And if so, what was it?
Yeah, I still do some different auctions from time to time.
Okay.
I'm primarily a livestock auctioneer, but I'll do some equipment auctions from time to time. Years ago, through a family friend who's a good friend of mine to this day, he's an automobile auctioneer, and he's been very successful in that. He introduced me to automobile auctions, and I tried that for a couple of years, but it was just kind of the square peg in the round hole deal. It just wasn't for me. I didn't mix well with the people. I didn't know the product, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with the people, a great group of people, and I did learn a lot, but it just was not for me. Livestock is always where my heart's been, and admittedly, walking away from those auto auctions the way that I did is probably cost me some money, but I don't regret it because uh, livestock people are my people. That's who I am. That's how I was raised, and I really enjoy it.
Sure. Well, how did you get started in the auction industry? Because if I remember what you said correctly, you said you had worked in the livestock industry as a rep or working for purebred associations and things like that. And there are people who make a great career out of that without ever getting an auction license. Or I don't know if
Yeah.
y'all have licensure as in the same way that Tennessee does. But
No,
anyways,
no.
how'd you get into the live bid calling side of things?
Well, to back up a little bit, during my early childhood years, I was raised here in Southwest Idaho, and like I said, my family's always been in the cattle business. Started out as we were custom cattle feeders and fed cattle for ourselves as well. And then during my early teens, my folks went their separate ways, and my dad focused on order buying, got into order buying and traveling to cattle sales all throughout the West. He also did some field work for a couple of different livestock auctions as well as a video auction out west. And then my mom actually took a job at our local auction yard here in Caldwell, Idaho. And on Saturdays, I would go to work with her. And that was the day that they sold their small animals. And at that time, that auction was managed by the late great Ken Trout. And I never had the opportunity to share an auction block with Ken or work with him in that way, but I got to know him a little bit, got to be around him. And then I worked at that auction starting from the ground up, worked out back, moved livestock around, loaded, unloaded trucks, cleaned pens, just did whatever needed to be done. And then, so I did that. And then, absolutely, one of my favorite things to do, every chance I got, I would go travel with my dad to the different auctions that he went to. And that put me around some of the very best auctioneers in the business, some very well-run livestock auctions. And so, in my early teens, I thought, this is for me. This is what I want to do with my life. And it just grew from there. When I got out of high school, which was I hate to say this, but it was 30 years ago this year. the summer that I got out of auction school, I went to Ralph Wade's bid calling seminar, which at that time Ralph lived in Greeley, Colorado, and he taught. I think if I remember correctly, it was a 3 day seminar of just one-on-one, just him working with you as his student, and it did a lot for me. I came back, started into college that fall down at Twin Falls, Idaho, and started working at Producers Livestock Auction at Jerome, Idaho. They gave me the chance to work out back, really learn a lot about how to evaluate cattle and the process of a livestock auction, the inner workings. And then they gave me the opportunity to sell baby calves and butcher cows, and it started from there. And it's been a long road, but a few bumps in the road, but I'm sure not sorry about any of it. It's been great.
Absolutely. Well, there's two things that you said there that I think our listeners really need to hone in on, because most of our listeners are new or novice bid callers. That's who this audience is intended for. Now, we obviously have other people. We have some world champions who listen on a regular basis. I'm thankful for that. But this
Mhm.
is intended in particular for the new guy who does not know, just graduated auction school, trying to build a
Mhm.
chant. And one thing that we really try to capitalize on is you're not an expert, and you're not going to be an expert until you become an expert.
Mhm.
So you said something that is so important. When you started working in these sale barns, you started from the ground up. So I
I
want
bet.
you to take just a minute, Eric, and describe to us, because a lot of these guys who are going to be live bid callers are looking for livestock markets to work at, either that or car and equipment sales. That seems to me now to be just about the only live method of bid calling that there
Yep.
is. Most everything else is going online, which that's neither here nor there. But what does it look like from your perspective for a guy to work from the ground up?
Well, I think that you build the best foundation that you can for yourself when you start from the ground up, because there's so much to, I think, livestock auctioneering in particular. You can go to school and you can learn bid calling and you can learn some of the basics of the business, and those things you should do too. But there's no book that you can check out anywhere or read, and there's nothing in a classroom anywhere that duplicates what goes on at a livestock auction.
Mhm.
And as with any auction, product knowledge is worth so much. And if you work your way onto a sorting crew at a livestock auction, you learn a lot how to evaluate livestock, and you learn how to set up a sale order and learn how the entire process works really. And then, like I said, I spent some time throughout my career buying cattle, which I still do from time to time. So uh, if you can learn that process and then also learn what the buyer's expectations are, it helps you become a better marketer. And I think for a young person, especially now, who wants to be in the livestock auction business, the advantage that they would have is uh, if they go to a livestock auction and they offer to work out back and start from the ground up, if they show any skill or any aptitude at all, they're probably going to be hired right on the spot, because I promise you, there is not a livestock auction anywhere in America right now who's not shorthanded and who
Mhm.
is looking for good young people to step in that they can teach.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the market that's 4 miles down the road from my house that our friend Jacob Massey sells at on a regular basis, Mid South Livestock in Unionville, Tennessee. Just all the time they're posting looking for hired help to work
Oh
out in
yeah.
the back pens, and so that's great. You have to learn. This is something that I had to learn the hard way. I'll just share my flaws with our audience. Um, I have been in the auction business my whole life. My father was
Hmm.
an auctioneer, grew up in the auction business. I raised cattle my whole life
Hmm.
and love doing it. Love the livestock industry with all of my heart. And competed in a small town livestock contest and won.
Hmm.
And then decided that I wanted to go do a WLAC quarterfinal, because
Hmm.
I was working at a local market about an hour and a half from my house, and let's just put it this way: it gave me the credentials to compete. It
Sure.
wasn't anything special, great market, great people, but not anything over the top.
Uh-huh.
And so I go and compete, and I learned right quick that I did not know what I thought I knew. And it was one of the most humbling experiences in the best way possible. So
Hmm.
all of that to agree with what you're saying, Eric, and in particular, I love what you said about product knowledge. Product knowledge, you can, if you want to sell antiques, you better know what carnival glass is. You better know what
Uh,
Fostoria is. You better know what Lillian Russell and Duncan Fife and all that stuff is. If you want to sell equipment, you need to know the difference between a cat and a komatsu. And I mean,
yeah,
and all different kinds of stuff.
exactly.
And it's a learning process. But if you want to sell livestock, particularly cattle, a grave mistake that a lot of young auctioneers make, in my opinion, is thinking that all cattle are created equal.
Not so.
Exactly. All you have to do is look at a market report and figure that out. So tell us a little bit about that, Eric, about product knowledge, particularly with livestock. What are you looking for when that group of cattle or that singular cow or calf or whatever it is walks in the ring and you have a split second to look at that animal and try to figure out where that animal falls on the market? What are you looking for?
You know, take for example butcher cattle, butcher
Mhm.
cows and bulls. You're looking for weighing condition as much as you are anything, and of course health. Health is the first thing you look for because if they're not a healthy animal, none of the rest of your evaluation really makes a difference. But in packer cattle, it's weighing condition. Uh, Feeder cattle, it's of course weight, health, quality, breeding, flesh condition,
Mhm.
and it depends on what time of year it is and what the weather conditions are. If they're a green little, say, 5 weight steer or a group of 5 weight steers, and we're in say late December or January out here, and California has gotten some rain because California, a lot of people don't realize they get their green grass in the wintertime.
Mm.
Uh, so they're looking for cattle to turn out. Those cattle are going to be worth a lot of money if they've had an adequate amount of moisture. But if they haven't, those cattle won't bring as much money. So you have to know the market conditions. You got to. I know just enough about the futures market to get myself in trouble, but
Mhm.
you have to stay up on the futures market because, like it or not, they do have an impact on our business.
Sure, sure, absolutely. Well, Eric, let's talk a little bit about bid calling and the art of bid calling. Um, I want to first kind of push us in the direction of your experience with Superior.
Hmm.
Um, do, Forgive me for not knowing. Do you do any bid calling for Superior, or are you
No,
strictly a
no, and
rep? Okay,
no, and I don't want to mislead anyone. I am a rep for Superior, but I am
okay,
not one of their auctioneers. They've got Ralph Wade and Trent
right.
Stewart and Charlie Cummings, so they're pretty well staffed.
Yeah,
And
absolutely,
all those
absolutely.
guys are oh yeah, they're top notch people and all great friends of mine. So, but no, I do not auctioneer for Superior. I have my purebred sales and I do my livestock markets. So,
Okay, okay. Well, I didn't want to discredit you if you did,
oh no,
or
not at
give
all.
credit if you didn't. So, okay, very good. Well, okay, that's still fine for the question I want to ask, which is this: our world is moving more into a technological age, especially in the auction industry. COVID, of course, really pushed that over the edge. A lot
Mhm.
of us went to online platforms, whether it be simulcast, live simulcast, or online timed, or whatever. Superior was way ahead of the game with that, obviously, doing the video sales and doing the internet. I guess suppose you might call it simulcast in that sense, where you have a live bid caller who is dealing with live bidders or even
Yeah.
phone bidders or whatever the case may be. So, my question is this: when you're dealing with that setup, how does it change your rhythm, your chant? I don't know if I assume that you do with your registered sales, you're dealing with phone bidders or maybe even simulcast in
Yeah.
that regard as well. So you're perfectly capable of talking about this versus a brick and mortar sale barn where all of your bidders are going to be right in front of you.
Well, it changes things up a little bit because you have to, take for example the brick and mortar auctions where I sell Joshua, where they have DV auction or Cattle USA or some sort of internet console. You have to slow it up and change it up a little bit because you have to give those people online a little bit extra time. They don't have they don't have the best view uh, of the animal or whatever we're selling, or maybe their internet service is a little bit slow. So you do have to change it up a little bit. And then a lot of times, you're dealing with people who maybe don't go to auctions all that often. They're not professional cattle buyers. So, you need to take that extra minute, that extra hesitation, and let those people know if they're in, let them know if they're out, so that they have time to come back to you. But, there's that fine line that you walk there. If you give the people on the internet too much time, you're discrediting the people who are at ringside with you. If you give if and the same thing, if you hang on too long for the people at ringside, the people on the internet can get upset. So there's a fine line that you walk. You have to be completely as fair as you can to everybody. So it does. I guess the disadvantage is it does maybe slow the auction up from time to time, but the advantage is it opens up other revenue streams. Um, I've been to more than one feeder cattle auction in Montana in December where the internet bidders saved the day because the regular buyers couldn't make it to the sale, bad roads or what have you. So
Yeah, yeah, very good. I work for an equipment auction company here in Tennessee as a bid caller, and we do only simulcast.
okay.
So I'm sitting in a studio when this is going on with three TV screens. We have three
Uh,
different bidding platforms, and the screen kind of flashes at you when the people bid. And it's different because up until that point, my bid calling career had been basically estate and livestock, where you have your bidders there with you and you can read them. You can
mm-hmm.
tell, does this guy want to bid again or is he done? And
Yeah,
when you put behind a TV screen, that makes it a little more complicated.
yeah.
So yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah,
Uh,
the way, oh, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, you're fine. Go ahead.
The way that I look at that, I appreciate the companies like Superior who have incorporated the technology and not replaced the live bid calling with strictly, internet auctions.
Hmm.
But in my mind, I'll just say it out loud. The guy on the seats, the bidder on the seats, still gets the benefit of the doubt because, to your point, we can see what he's doing.
Hmm.
You have your list of people on your computer screen who are tuned in to the broadcast, but I don't know if they're just watching or if they're interested or if they got up to go get a cup of coffee and they're not even watching at all anymore. So
Right, right.
you're as fair as you can be with those people because, like I said, they are an important part of the auction. But for me, the guy on the seats gets the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
sure. Eric, you had something very interesting happen in the past week or so, and that is you just got back from Canada, competed in the Calgary. Is the Calgary Stampede auction contest? Is that
Yeah,
tell me the
International Livestock Auctioneer Contest, the Calgary Stampede.
okay, international at Calgary. There you go. So I talked to David Whitaker about this a few months
Hmm.
ago because he had competed in that years ago.
Uh-huh.
And I did not realize the difference, the significant difference between Canadian markets and American markets. So
Hmm.
maybe you could speak to that a little bit, just as kind of a side interesting thing, because you're selling in Canadian currency,
You're
aren't you?
selling in Canadian currency, so you really have to study those market reports and
Mm-hmm.
get in your mind. We were selling, say, 800-pound steers up there for over $3 in Canadian money. So, in fact, during the contest, I was saying my front number so much to the point that it was probably annoying to some people, but I thought it would be better to do that than it would be to lose my place.
Yeah,
But
right.
the International Livestock Auctioneer Contest. This is the second year in a row that I've gotten reserve, and it is so much fun up there. You're in a more of a laid back atmosphere. You start your own cattle, so I think it tests product knowledge a little bit more. And it's if so you in the first day you sell at a regular livestock auction, and if you make the top 10, you go to the Stampede grounds the next day, and they have the top 10 sale, which you used to sell a ranch name, a brand name up there. They've changed that up. You This year, for the first time ever, we sold project steers that were uh, kids or the exhibitors had to apply to get these steers, and they were donated by a ranch that actually is owned by the Calgary Stampede. So it was a really fun way of doing things. I'll tell you, up there in Canada, they do a good job of showcasing their agriculture. Farmers and ranchers are revered. and they show off to the public, and they incorporate the kids. And I thought the deal was a lot of fun.
Well, that's great. And congratulations on reserve again.
Well, thank you
That's
very much.
fantastic. I had the chance to listen to a little bit of your run, and I mean, smooth as silk.
Well, thank you.
It was wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you. I
Uh,
appreciate
your
that.
your chant reminds me in some weird way, because we're all the product of our influences.
Hmm.
Your chant reminds me of such a good mix of the slow and steady of Ralph Wade with the punchy attention grabbingness of Max Oliveira. And
Well, thank
I'm sure both of those men have had great influence on you in your career.
Ralph was my original teacher. Like I say, I went to his auction school, and Max. I I go down to California every now and then to have Max kind of tune on me a little bit, and both of those men are great teachers and great friends, and I think arguably the two of the best bid callers who ever lived as far as livestock markets go.
I agree,
I
100%.
think yeah, I think Ralph especially. I've always said that if you could somehow go back through time and take Ralph Wade out of the auction business, had he never come along, I don't think auctioneers would even sound the same. It would be like it would be like taking George Strait out of country music.
Right.
Country music wouldn't sound the same because he's had that much of an impact.
Absolutely. Well, pre Ralph Wade, if we can like just go on the LMA website and listen to past champions.
Hmm.
Pre Ralph Wade, very high pitched, very fast, very yell at you
Yeah,
in the sense of the chant.
I don't think
Um,
the sound system
it,
were sound systems
no,
may have been
no,
as good
no,
in those days too.
no.
So
They were terrible. They were terrible. God bless them.
yeah,
But then Ralph comes along with this sort of slow isn't the right word, rhythmic cadence, and it's it's kind of like the idea, and of course he had the train in his videos, but it is like the
steady
idea of
like a
riding
train,
on a
sharp
train.
like a razor.
That's exactly right, and that's what it
Yeah.
is, and that's what I get when I listen to you
Well,
and
thank you.
several others as well. I've listened to a clip of a guy who's become a friend of mine over the years, um, Michael Imbrogno,
I love
selling.
Michael.
Michael has one of the best chants in this world, and I will die
One
on that hill. He has one of the best chants. I don't care what he's selling, one of the best chants in this world.
one
But
hundred
it's
percent agree.
but it's like you say, it's that transition of the fast and in your face to the slow and steady, or the rhythmic and steady, and let's
Mhm.
we're headed to a destination and we're going to get there, but we're going to
Uh-huh.
enjoy the ride. Right. That's what I
Absolutely.
like to listen to. So that's great. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, let's talk back about you. Let's talk about your building of your chant. So you went to Ralph originally. Did you have any kind of auction chant before that?
Oh, a little bit. I had sold just a few estate sales and junk auctions a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I had a chant. And what Ralph did was he set me down behind a desk with a microphone and put a camera on me and said, "You sell any way you want to for 15 minutes." And he left the room. And he came back in the room after, 10, 15 minutes, whatever it was, and he replayed the video and watched it. And he basically said, "Get rid of that. We're going to do it my way." And that's in fact the name of his school,
Right. Right.
Auctioneering My Way. And so what he did with me, or with all of his students, you just start out very basic. I'm bid one. I'm bid $1 now two. I'm bid $2 now three, all the way up to 10, because he's and we didn't do any tongue twisters or anything like that. Nothing wrong with tongue twisters at all.
Mm-hmm.
I still can't do a lot of them, but that's not the way that he teaches. He says, there's nothing wrong with tongue twisters, but why not get right into the numbers and the rhythm? And he basically gives you the foundation or his foundation, and he teaches you how to build yours, and then you can do, whatever you want with it from there.
Mm-hmm.
But he really works with you on breathing, on he doesn't call them filler words, he calls them filler phrasing.
Yes, sir.
And and uh he uh and he's very adamant about the fact that your filler phrasing needs to be almost as crisp as your numbers are. And it took me a long time to understand that, but as time went on, I figured out that he was totally right because if you use an actual word instead of just throwing gibberish in there, it makes your chant crisper and cleaner, and it makes it flow a little bit better. And why not use a real word? I mean, English is the language that we've all agreed on. Let's use it. So,
Sure. Yeah, very
but yeah,
good.
that's kind of how we got started. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing to do for even me today, and I get the opportunity every now and then to teach bid calling at a local auction school here, the Nashville Auction School, and people who come to auction school, even if they've been bid calling for a long time, they kind of want to major in the minors, as I call it. They want a lot of filler words that make it sound to them like they're doing something fast and
Hmm.
impressive, when at the end of the day, it's the number that matters. And so tearing away the excess can be very difficult.
It
And
can be.
and so I love that suggestion of sitting in front of a camera and recording your, I mean, we all have cameras on our phone. Record
Oh
yourself
yeah.
for 10 minutes selling however you want and go back and listen to it. It might be one of the most painful things you ever do, listening to
Oh
yourself.
yeah, it is, and
Uh,
I'll even I'll go back and listen to myself in a contest, and sometimes and think, especially if I come in behind a guy like Michael and Brogno, I think, man, I need to go back to auction school. So,
yeah, yeah, no joke. So with your chant as you've built it, and with all the markets that you sell at on a regular basis, um, one thing that is, it's something I admire about people like you, and particularly car auctioneers as well, who travel to multiple markets. Um, you have strong voices. Is there anything that you do to maintain your voice throughout the week? Because in a sale barn, I mean, you're breathing dust and dirt and manure and all that stuff all day
oh
long.
yeah,
So, is
yeah.
there anything that you do to take care of your voice?
Oh, I on sale days, I try to stay away from the coffee. I'll have a cup or two early in the morning, and some guys, you know them too, I'm sure they can drink coffee all day long. I can't do it. It drives
Oh
me
yeah.
out. I I drink a lot of water, drink a lot of warm tea, not hot tea.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess to back up a little bit, what I do more of to maintain my voice than anything, and I it's very seldom talked about, is I just try to take care of myself all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go to the gym 3 or 4 days a week. Uh, and I'm not a big weightlifter. I focus on cardiovascular exercise. I've always felt that to be important because if you can't get air into your lungs, nothing else you do really makes any difference. And
Absolutely.
so I really make the effort to try to take care of myself. I try to eat right, which isn't always easy to do on the road, but you do the best you can.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Eric, let's talk a little bit about another great victory that you had over the past couple of months, and that was the WLAC. Um, you went to the finals, and that, tell us about that experience and what that was like. Take us all the way from the quarterfinals up to uh, the finals this past year.
Oh, okay. Well, the quarterfinals that I went to this year was in Torrington, Wyoming. It would have been last September, so not quite a year ago. It seems like the field of auctioneers and the competition gets tougher and tougher all the time. There's some really
Mm-hmm.
great auctioneers out there. I felt very fortunate to have made the top 10. And so, but I did. And it earned me a trip to the WLAC this year in Oklahoma City. Really a fun contest. There again, I mean, the field of auctioneers that they have there, the talent runs deep. Um, I, uh, I felt like I had a good run. Probably not good enough to win, which I didn't win, and but I think I came in. We got our scores back. I think I was number 8 or 9 overall. But if you come in behind some of the guys like Wade Leist, our winner this year, and the Jace Thompsons of the world, who I work with in Montana, and Jace has become a good friend. You don't feel second place. I mean, you feel fortunate to even be there because those guys are so talented. Um, I the best I've ever done in the contest, I've had 4 top 10 finishes, which includes the 2021 Reserve WLAC, Reserve World Livestock Auctioneer Champion. That was the best I've ever done. I haven't done quite that well since, but one thing about it, we all need to eat a piece of humble pie every once in a while. And it reminds you that even on a good day, you can still be beat. And what does that do? It tells you to get home and go to work because
Mhm.
contest or not, you need to always improve. You always need to do everything that you can do to try to get better and hone your skills.
Right, right. Well, the WLAC is so interesting to me because, in my opinion, that's all it is. In my opinion, it is
Hmm.
so different from any other kind of, let's say, bid calling contest or auctioneer contest, whatever term you want to use. So, for example, if I go to a state contest for my state association or something like the Mule Day or, even the national contest, the IAC, I'm
Hmm.
bringing three items that I'm familiar with. I know how to introduce those items. I might have people sitting in the audience who are going to bid on those items so I can at least have somewhat of a decent run. You go
Hmm.
to a WLAC, it ain't that.
No,
You
it's
don't
not
know
that.
what you're selling until it walks in the ring, and you have half a second to figure out where it falls. And WLAC, they start them for you, don't the barn manager, the owner?
Yeah, the auction manager or so one of the market men there will start the
Yeah,
cattle for you.
yeah,
And
yeah. So that
try to give you
obviously
about a
helps.
$10-15 run usually.
Hmm,
I've
hmm.
had runs that are $30 or $40, and I've had runs where I've had to back up because he started them too high. It
Sure,
happens to
sure.
all of us as part of the business. So
Right.
yeah.
But the thing about the Livestock Marketing Association is they're looking for their champion to be a representative for that industry for that year or for the rest of their life, but
Sure.
particularly that year. And so you market yourself in such a special way with a contest like that. And one thing that I've been so impressed with the WLAC is how well the interview portion has improved over the past couple of years. I mean, used to, this is my opinion now, just my opinion. Used to, I'd watch the WLAC and you'd watch the bid calling, and then the interview was kind of like, well, we need to make sure that they can at least talk to somebody if they have to.
Hmm.
But now guys are spending far more time preparing for the interview than I think maybe they have in the past. Can you
And you can
speak to that?
include me in that. Yeah, you
Well,
can
I
include me
think
in that
so.
category. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's incredible some of the answers that these guys are giving. It's obvious that they've thought about it, that they're immersing themselves in the industry. And so to kind of bring this to a point, sometimes I think we get confused as competitive auctioneers between a bid calling contest and an auctioneer contest. And I think there is a difference.
There
Bid
is.
calling contest, you can be the best bid caller in the world, but if you cannot speak, introduce yourself, answer questions coherently, and talk to somebody as if they've been your friend your whole life. You go
Hmm.
to an auctioneer contest where that interview portion is so important. I mean, it's a quarter of the score, right, for
It is.
WLAC?
Yes.
Yeah. So walk us through the interview portion for you. What was that like, and was it what you were expecting?
Well, the interview portion has always been nerve-wracking for me, and
Sure.
it was always my weak point. And to be honest with you, I didn't always. There was a time when I didn't necessarily agree with the LMA incorporating the interview.
Mm.
I have changed my opinion on that because to the point that you made a minute ago, I've known some tremendous bid callers that if you talk to them one on one, they mumble and they stare at their shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And in our line of work, it's important for us to be able to visit with the public every once in a while. We're invited to be on a podcast or a TV interview or newspaper interview or whatever, and you have to be articulate. But I went so far as to hire or I didn't hire her. She graciously volunteers her time to me. One of my very good friends, his wife uh, gives public speaking lessons, and she graciously offered to help me about 4 years ago. Started helping me. She did not have much to work with because I was not very good, Joshua. I was just not very good at all. But she's brought me a long ways, and I was especially proud of my interview this year because I've worked hard at it, and I finally learned how to relax. I have a tendency to overthink a lot of things. Um, I think that I think the mistake that I made in the interview and that I see a lot of other people making is they try to anticipate the questions and then they want that they come up with a word for word answer. And one of two things happens when you do that. Either they don't ask the question that you thought they were going to, and so you're not prepared for it, or you just then your nerves get the best of you and you just sound like a jumbled mess. So what I was basically taught how to do finally was number one, relax, get control of the nerves, remember that it's just a conversation. It's okay to take a deep breath and think about what you want to say and gather your thoughts. Everybody's so afraid of dead air, and you don't have to be afraid of that.
Right.
Uh, yeah, take a minute, gather your thoughts, and then if you try to come up, if you rehearse too much, or for me anyway, if I rehearse too much, then your answer is going to sound rehearsed. And instead of it just being fluid and from the heart and off the cuff and conversational, you're going to sound like an FFA kid trying to win the Creed speaking contest.
Right. Right.
You just want to you just want to try to relax. And I was finally able to do that for the first time since I've been going to the WLAC. I was actually proud of my interview this year. So
Good.
that's what the
Good.
process has been like for me.
Yeah. I think we deal with this in state contests a lot because a lot of state contests have incorporated interviews in their contest because the expectation for a lot of states is if you win the state, you will go compete at the IAC. It's not true
Mhm.
for everybody, but that is at least to some degree an expectation.
Certainly.
So we try to incorporate interview questions, and I coach a lot of people now with bid calling and bid calling contests, and the problem that I see is that because you don't know what they're going to ask, when the interviewer asks the question, you're already thinking about how you're going to answer the question
Yeah, you get
rather than
ahead of yourself.
listening to the question.
Yeah,
And to
yeah,
your point, dead air is not always a bad thing.
yeah.
I told you before we started, I'm recording in my church office as I obviously always do, and I preach for a living. And one of the great things about preaching is you public speak 4 times a week, 3 or 4 times a week for an hour apiece, and you
Hmm.
learn how to use pauses. Pauses can be incredibly effective in public speaking. So, to your point, listen to the question. And as you said, you can't really anticipate it. But in my opinion, the best way to improve at an interview is to immerse yourself in the knowledge that you will need.
Hmm.
And then to speak from the overflow is what we always called it in preaching. You study your lesson inside and out. And then when you get up on stage, you don't give everything you studied, you preach from the overflow. And
Hmm.
so that's a great perspective that you've had on this. How many years have you competed in the WLAC?
I started going in 2017. That was my first contest, Billings, Montana. And then I went every year. We didn't have it in 2020 because of COVID. And so I went 2017 to 2019, skipped 2020. Came back in 2021, 2022. I actually did not qualify in 2023, so Oklahoma City this year was my first year back after being gone for 2 years. So whatever that is, I think 6 times now.
Okay, very good. Uh, One final question before we get into our rapid fire questions. At the end of every
Okay.
podcast, I do rapid fire questions. So, but this one we can take our time with.
Okay.
How does the licensing process work where you are? Or do y'all have to be licensed? Does the license hang with the barn, or no
No.
licensure at all?
No, we don't have any license laws out
Okay.
here. Once in a great while, you'll have somebody ask you if you have a license, but uh, it's I haven't looked into it like I probably should have, Joshua, but it might be one of those deals that it is in fact law, but nobody takes it seriously.
Well,
And I know there's some very strict laws back in your part of the country, which
yeah,
it's just a difference in regions, but there are
that's right.
no yeah there's no I'm not required to have a license for any of the markets where I sell.
Mhm. Well, that was mainly my question because
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn what states have different requirements for what. In Tennessee, God love us, it is almost impossible to be a live bid caller. You have to go to auction school, be an apprentice or an affiliate or whatever they call it. It was an apprentice when I
Uh-huh.
went. I think it's affiliate now. Go back to school, take state tests, pay your fees, do your renewal and all this stuff. And but then out in your part of the world, and well, Arkansas is an interesting place. They have a license requirement. I believe this is right, except for livestock auctioneers. If you're a
Oh,
livestock
really?
auctioneer, you don't have to have a license because you work for the barn, and the barn or the market is licensed.
Yeah,
So
they
it's
they clear the cattle. Yeah,
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 right. Okay, well,
yeah.
interesting. Well, Eric, as we kind of draw this to a close, we'll hit some rapid fire questions. These are just one or two word or one or two sentence answer questions. Take as
Okay,
long as you want. Well, I've got all day. I don't care. But
okay.
anyways, so with your experience in the livestock industry and especially purebred, what kind of purebred cattle do you sell, or is it a variety?
Oh, it's a variety, but I mean, primarily probably Angus.
Okay.
Uh, just because there's more Angus cattle available than there is anything else. That's still the popular breed, and a lot of good all around, a lot of good Angus breeders, and a lot of good purebred breeders. Period, out in
Mm-hmm.
our part of the world.
Do you see any breed in particular that has not been popular that's becoming more popular today?
Yeah, I do. Herefords are making a comeback as they have been for a long time. There's a lot of good Hereford cattle out there, especially probably on the polled side of things. And
Mm-hmm.
I had mentioned earlier in the podcast that I had traveled for a breed association at one point in time. Well, it was back in I think I did it from 2000 to 2002. It was actually for the American Hereford Association,
Okay.
and
Okay.
the tougher times back then. Herefords had lost a lot of popularity. The association was in some turmoil, but they've gotten things turned around and they're really making a comeback. And there's a lot of good Hereford influenced cattle out there.
Yeah, I think so. Well, with these purebred in particular, uh, can you think off the top of your head what the highest selling uh, purebred animal has been that you've sold?
Oh, it wouldn't be more than probably about ten or $20,000. I sell mainly range bull auctions.
Okay. Okay.
You start talking about like the Rick Machados, the Roger Jacobses of the world who sell some of the high dollar female sales.
Yeah. So you
They
haven't
get a
hit a
lot of
$5
those.
million bull yet.
Yeah, I haven't had one of those auctions yet, but and that's really not my world. But
Right.
yeah, I that's kind of what I do.
Yeah. Is there a particular the way the question's worded is what's your favorite item that you've sold to talk about? But with being in the livestock industry, is there a particular sale or a particular even a particular animal that you have sold that just sticks out in your mind that like this is the cream of the crop. This is the best thing I've ever done.
You know, yeah, I really enjoy the fall of the year in the Northwest because there are so many good calves and feeder cattle to sell. Especially when I have the opportunity to get up into Montana, which I do on a regular basis throughout the fall. It's the state of Montana is known for the quality and the quantity of its cattle, and it's really fun to go up there and sell draft after draft after draft of high quality cattle.
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite filler word to use?
Oh, I use a lot of dollar over here, dollar bidder,
Mm-hmm.
$1 bidder now too, $1 over here now too.
Okay. How do you prepare for contests?
Public speaking. I spend as much time as I can with my public speaking instructor, and just trying to hone my interview skills. And when I go to a contest, um, my wife will tell you that I'm probably not a lot of fun to be around. I get a little nerved up. I tend to be a little bit short with people, which I'm sorry about. But I just leading up to the contest, I just really try to relax. I get a good night's sleep the night before, and just try to look my best, sound my best. I show up prepared. I try to never be late for the bus, especially like at the WLAC.
Hmm.
If they tell you that the bus leaves at 6 o'clock, they don't mean 6:01. You better be there. So
Right,
I just
right.
try to, I just try to, and I try to familiarize myself with whatever market we're at, get to know some of the people, learn some of the producers, some of the buyers in that area, and get to know the cattle and the lay of the land a little bit.
Yeah. Do you ever look at the market reports for the market that you're going to before you get there?
No, I do, but like up in Canada a couple weeks ago, they gave us a market report to study, and you just as well have wadded that thing up and thrown it away because it was for the contest. The cattle were $20 or $30 a hundred higher, but it is a good barometer, and it gives you an idea of where to start.
Yeah. Well, the joys of a market, I mean, it's always changing, right?
Absolutely, that's what makes
Okay.
a market a market.
That's right. So, who are some auctioneers? And I'll make a caveat to this. Besides the famous guys like Ralph Wade, Charlie Cummins, Trent Stewart, besides those guys, who are some auctioneers that you love to just sit and listen to?
Michael and Brogno. I love to listen to Michael. Um, I really like I really like his way of going. He has a crisp, clear chant. Um, I John Rogers, 1986 world champion in his day, I thought was as good as there was. Really liked to listen to him a lot. A gentleman who maybe some of the younger listeners, some of your younger listeners may not have heard of. Gentleman out in Central Oregon named Eric Duarte, a very good friend of mine, has taught me a lot about the business. I really like Eric's way going. He used to be a regular attendee and contestant in the WLAC. He doesn't go anymore, but he was always a tough competitor. Uh, had the opportunity to be around Ken Trout a lot, and I liked Ken. Ken, uh, not only did he have a tremendous chant, but he had a way with people that uh, I was never around anybody like him in the sense that he could pick you, Joshua, out of a crowd of 1,000 people, and he knew how to make you feel like you were the most important person in the room. And he was very gifted and very talented in that way. A guy who I work with from time to time and who's become a very good friend, Rick Machado from California. I really like Rick's way of going. He's charismatic, and when it comes to gathering a group of people, buyers and sellers, and keeping them on the edges of their seats and holding them in the palm of his hand and making them engaged in what he's doing, he's probably the best I've ever been around.
Do you have any contests on the horizon, any in the foreseeable future that you're going to or preparing for?
Oh, I definitely want to go to Canada again next year. That deal is so much fun. Uh, uh, our Canadian friends always have the red carpet rolled out for us, and they create such a fun atmosphere up there. So that's definitely on my horizon. Uh, WLAC, the quarterfinals. It's going to be tough to make them fit my schedule this year, so I'm kind of undecided on that. But it's not a definite yes, but it's sure not a definite no either. We'll just have
Sure.
to see what we can make work.
Well, cool. What's one piece of advice that you would give a brand new auctioneer?
If I was to give a brand new auctioneer, someone who is trying to start their career, if I was to give them any advice, Joshua, it would be this. Right now and for the next several years, don't worry about the money that you can make because you're not going to make a whole lot anyway. Worry about the opportunities that you have and the experiences that you can gain. You know, travel up and down the road, uh, look for opportunity wherever you can and take advantage of those opportunities. And if you hone your skills and you're sincere and you always continue to be a student of the industry, the money will come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I don't remember who it was. Can't remember if it was Thomas Edison or Ben Franklin, but somebody said, people often pass up opportunity because it shows up dressed in overalls."
That's exactly
And
right.
that's exactly right.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, one final thing, if you don't mind, would you mind selling us a 600-pound steer real quick?
Here we go, Dan. How many that are appearing and take a look here? Dan now 270 now. One that are appearing and two that are three that are appearing and 74 that are appearing and pine that are appearing and 6 that are 200 and 77 that are appearing 9 that are appearing and 9 that are appearing and 80 81 that are appearing and 2 $281 down. 2 that are appearing 2 sold them to you 281. Joshua Houston.
I'll load them on the trailer. Let's go home.
All right.
I love it. Thank you, Eric, for your time today. I have thoroughly enjoyed this. I met you very briefly at the WLAC quarterfinal, I believe, and that's where we met and have seen each other on Facebook. But, this has been fantastic to get to sit down and talk with you and know you a little better. And I'm proud to have you on the podcast. So thank you for your time today.
Well, Joshua, I'm flattered that you asked me. I've been a fan of your podcast, and I appreciate what you do for the industry, and it's been a real pleasure to be here.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, have a good day, buddy, and we will see you down the road sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Better Bid Calling podcast. If you would like to sponsor an episode, please contact us at betterbidcalling@gmail.com.